Good morning, bonjour, welcome CKC members. Thank you for joining us today. For some of you, I may be a new face. My name is Jeff Cornett, and I'm the Executive Director of the Canadian Kennel Club. This morning, I have the pleasure of introducing our guest speaker for the special pre-AGM presentation. Dr. Brenda Bonnett is the CEO of the International Partnership for Dogs. She is a tenured professor at the Ontario Veterinary College and is a veterinarian and consulting epidemiologist. Her research projects in Europe and North America have been utilized in the development of national and international kennel club programs. CKC has been working with Brenda and the International Partnership for Dogs for a few years now. She presented at our 2019 CKC seminar, and she has participated in many board discussions and committee presentations. She is a good friend of the CKC. We are excited to have Brenda with us here today to talk on how understanding international issues in the dog world can help support all of us to sustain and improve the health, well-being, and welfare of the breeds we love. Brenda will be available for questions after the presentation, so please make sure you submit any questions for her in the Q&A tab on our broadcast platform. And so without further delay, here is Brenda's presentation. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today on the Canadian Kennel Club, and the international dog world, opportunities and challenges. I think you've seen my bio, and I don't want to spend time on it, but I'm a veterinarian and epidemiologist. I was on faculty for many years at the Ontario Veterinary College, and when I was there, I went on sabbatic to Sweden, and that started me down this road of international work, and now I speak to you today as the CEO of the International Partnership for Dogs. So our goals for today's discussions include what is happening internationally and across other stakeholder groups that will impact Canadian dog owners and breeders. What's out there in terms of information and resources that's just waiting for you to use and discover so that you don't have to invent it or start from scratch? And what have you got, or how can you share and lead? So this is a poster, Dogs of All Nations, from Dog World magazine in 1936, listing all the pure breeds of dogs, 164 of them. For Canada, we had Labrador, flat-coated, and curly-coated retrievers, Newfs, and Eskimo dogs. So we can take away that it's been a long time since we've appreciated that the dog world is truly international, truly global. And we might stop just for a moment and think that these 164 breeds have become over 450 in less than 100 years. So selective breeding has brought us many more breeds. Selective breeding has also resulted in lack of lower genetic diversity within breed than in the whole dog population. So we have to think about that. So lots of talk everywhere in the world these days about health problems that have arisen from selective breeding, but the importance of breeds is that selective breeding has also produced special traits, skills, and abilities that are of great benefit to humans and to society. And we don't want to lose all the good things that have arisen through the creation of breeds, even though we do want to address health and welfare issues in certain breeds. And of course, there may always be new opportunities. Dogs can do many amazing things to help us. So let's talk then about what is going on the international scene for dogs. So why do I say that you need to elevate your view and take a global perspective on issues in dogs? Well, we had the very tragic situation at Pearson Airport last year, which highlighted that illegal trade, importation of dogs, and online sales from other parts of the world is impacting us in Canada. We know that education programs and information are out there, so if we can find the best sources, what a great thing to use to inform our national efforts. Advances in genetics and genomics occur both from the research side and from the commercial side all over the world. If we're moving dogs or genetic material around the world, we have to be aware of testing, availability, and requirements throughout the world. Legislation, regulation in one country can spur on people in other countries. It seems to be an ongoing thing, and particularly lately on breeds with extreme conformation, and I'll talk more about that later. And in docking and cropping, that's a hot topic in some countries, and it's already illegal, and people have moved on in other countries. So good to know what's going on where. Breed-specific breeding strategies. Breeds are more similar than different throughout the world, so we can learn from the work others are doing and then tailor it to meet the Canadian situation. Advances for kennel clubs, of course they want to be on a par with each other, or at least be able to relate to each other, both for movement of dogs and just technically. Many are linking health and pedigree data. Many are looking at how to use genetic identification of dogs and parentage testing. So relevant globally, really. So who has a stake in dog health and welfare? Of course, it's the kennel and breed clubs. But legislators and regulators have both a responsibility and an interest in global dog health and welfare. The public and individual consumers, of course, both drive demand for dogs and influence attitudes. Researchers, veterinarians, institutions, organizations, the pet industry worldwide, the welfare sector, especially shelters and online services and rescues, they care about these issues, and they are part of this situation. Then producers and distributors, including all types and kinds of breeders, brokers, and dealers, because they are part of the supply equation. All of these have responsibility to dog health and welfare. And so we need to talk to each other, and we need to listen to each other to work collectively and collaboratively. And the reason for that is that unilateral actions taken by just one group are not going to solve these problems that depend on a much more complex interrelationship between dogs, people, what people do with dogs, and that sort of thing. So that's why IPFD is talking to you today. It's why IPFD came into existence in 2014, was the need for an international, arm's length, impartial, evidence-based international organization to help bring the dog world together. And we talk about moving from information and collaboration to action. And we do that through our internet platform, dogwellnet.com, which is a hub of information, communication, and a lot of different resources, which I'll talk a bit more about later. The International Dog Health Workshops, which bring together decision leaders from all stakeholder groups to address hot topics, key issues, and then those people have the ability to go out to their communities and make things happen. These were occurring every 2 years. Guess what? With the pandemic, it got delayed. But we hope that we will be able to have an in-person dog health workshop in 2022. And we will be having some webinars later this year in 2021. And so underlying everything is, of course, human-dog interactions, and human behavior drives, well, everything that's good and everything that's challenging in the dog world. So that's under our umbrella as well, and incorporating that aspect into everything we do. So for the Canadian Kennel Club, embracing an international perspective provides many opportunities to further address your mission by benefiting from others' expertise and experience. And participating in international efforts, for example, the International Collaborative on Extreme Conformation in Dogs, brings you together not only with other countries that are trying to do similar work, but also with stakeholders in your own country. For example, the Canadian Veterinary Medical Association, with whom we're having conversations together with CKC on this effort. But there's certainly challenges. Obviously, balancing local, national, and regional commitments and priorities with time spent on international work is challenging. And then adapting to the differences in culture between Europe and North America, and even between Canada and the United States. So it's extremely important, also challenging. In collaborating with others, we have to remember that there's a spectrum of roles and relationships with people and with people's interactions with dogs. And these may be organizational, regional, national, cultural. For example, dogs are viewed as sentient beings in many countries of the world, which means they have certain rights. The exact rights and how those rights are enforced very different between countries. But there are still many countries in the world where dogs are viewed as property or chattels, and it's really up to the owner how those dogs are dealt with. Even in the United States, dogs are generally property under the law. So we have to understand the spectrum of differences when we work collaboratively. Another spectrum that I'll just put out there is, of course, this spectrum between taking stewardship for dogs, the world, environment, seeing that everything is under our responsibility, versus dominion, where the world is here for us to do with what we want. So always these complexities to deal with. Okay, what are some specific examples of information, tools, resources, and approaches that are available for you from IPFD or internationally? Well, one of the resources that we have recently created is a document called Reframing Current Challenges Around Pedigree Dogs, a call for respectful dialogue, collaboration, and collective actions. And this has arisen out of various actions, some legislative actions in Europe that have caught attention worldwide, and generated quite a lot of controversy and confrontation from various groups, campaigners, other dog organizations. And the polarity across groups is not helpful to moving forward when we probably share goals around dog health and welfare. So this was our suggestion of the bigger picture, people understanding the situation and different attitudes. The reframing document came about because there seemed to be a bit of a snowball effect happening with legislation and regulations happening in one country and then numerous countries in a continual stream, it seems. There was petitions in Sweden and the UK by veterinary groups looking for action on brachycephalic dog health and welfare, specific legislation in numerous countries, and some of them, it's not new legislation, but it's an enhanced enforcement of existing legislation. More recently, there's been legal action in Norway where a humane group is suing the Kennel Club, some breed clubs, and some individual breeders. And very recently, enforcement of regulations in the Netherlands against people using artificial insemination, especially in certain breeds that are viewed as compromised. So there's so much of this happening, and it seems to result in confrontation, them and us versus collaboration. We all know about the outrage culture on social media, but the strong language and entrenched positions will not help the situation probably, and it leaves people feeling vulnerable. So our resources are to push people towards that moderate middle ground. Let's talk and listen to each other. Because it seems likely that if there is an unwillingness to have open, respectful dialogue or to embrace collective, collaborative discussions, if there is denial that problems exist rather than taking responsibility for some of the challenges in certain breeds. If there's only confrontation, then the result may be that we are more and more hemmed in by legislation and regulation. And that's not likely to be good for any of these stakeholder groups that share a goal for dog health, welfare, and good human-dog interactions. So we need to be a bit proactive. So let's start talking about specific priority areas where information and resources can help. Health testing for breeding decisions is a big topic, which you are well aware of. Health testing encompasses everything from behavioral assessment to radiographic grading for hips and elbows, for example, to clinical exams, eyes, hearts, etc., and of course genetic testing. But many and maybe most important common severe conditions of greatest importance to many breeds are not now, or will they ever have, a simple health test or a DNA test. Most are complex diseases in terms of inheritance and environmental influences. So we do screening tests or health tests for conditions of importance where they exist, but there may be other conditions that have to be considered even without a specific health test involved. So the big picture is very important when choosing dogs for mating and for the breed, and I have blogs and we've done some articles to help people keep this in mind as they focus their priorities for breeding, taking the really big picture into consideration. And moving from talking about all this technology and testing, very important to remember that common sense is a key component of breeding decisions and really everything we do with dogs. And not all dams or sires with clear test results will be good choices for breeding. And there's a blog you can read about that. Good breeders, of course, use appropriate health testing, but just using health testing doesn't make somebody a good breeder. There's so many issues at this big picture level to consider. And even talking about what makes a good or bad breeder is a very complex thing to discuss. One thing that's common sense in some parts of the world, and in fact in law, that dogs with clinical signs of disease, that could be skin disease, eye disease, breathing difficulties, difficulty moving, would generally be excluded, and sometimes by law excluded from being bred. Not the same everywhere, but by common sense, a dog that has even potentially inherited problems should probably not be used. So just to quickly go through some of the resources I hope you'll go to DogWellNet and have a look at. We have a breeds database with most of the pedigree dog breeds, with information on international clubs, standards, health surveys, other links to international groups for the breed, local groups, and we welcome sharing of any material Canadian clubs have happy to get it in there. The Swedish Agri Insurance breed-specific statistics are available on 190 breeds, an earlier version available to everyone, a later version, more recent version available to people who designate themselves as a breed club rep. And these are some of the best quantifications of common conditions in dogs that you can find in the world. Definitely worth looking at for your breed. And comparing to the Canadian situation. In Sweden, Norway, and Finland, all clubs are required to do breed-specific breeding strategies, which are very comprehensive overviews of the breed. We have some translations available on them, and they can be very informative about the breed and also a great template to look at if a Canadian club is thinking of designing their own breed health strategy. Up in the right-hand corner there, it says Get a Grip, and that's a globally relevant integrated health profile. We are creating these comprehensive documents together with articles in the World Small Animal Veterinary Association Bulletin to inform veterinarians about breeds and breed issues, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Another key resource on DogWellNet that I hope many of you have found is our harmonization of genetic testing for dogs. You can search there by breed, by phene, which is test or disease, and by labs, genetic test providers that will sell you tests in dogs. There's also many links to genetic testing hot topics, genetic testing advice, a glossary of terms. And when you search by breed, a new development is that our expert, Aimé Llewellyn-Zadie, who is the project director, has worked with primary researchers and everything that's available in the literature to create breed relevance ratings for every test that's available in any breed. And just an indication of whether the science is there to back up the use of the test. It's not an actual recommendation that every green test should be used in a health testing program, but that tests without good information maybe shouldn't be used. But you need to look through on your own breed and read about what the relevance ratings are. They are well accepted now, and they are also helping us improve the quality of breed relevant reporting by the genetic test providers. Again, I don't have time to go into all the details of the Get a Grip program, but you can go online. We've done them for a number of breeds now and check them out. Combination of population stats, basic information caretakers need to know, key conditions, and many of them include statistics from the Swedish statistics, from other sources in the UK and Finland and wherever we can find them on the prevalence or rate of occurrence of different conditions for illness or morbidity, and also death and mortality. And where we can, we compare across other breeds of interest. And hope this interests you. Again, I don't have time to go into this in detail. So I think we each have to say, what's our role? Are we going to be part of the complainers and the finger pointers and the confrontational situation? Or what can we do to provide a more supportive, collaborative environment? What can you do as an individual? So that leads us to talk a little bit about what the CKC might have to share and how you can help lead in terms of dog health, well-being, and welfare. So we can say encouraging, empowering words like imagine, learn, capitalize, prepare, and lead. But we also have to acknowledge the challenges. Social media and the controversies and confrontation arise from it. It's highly contagious. We have to find ways to connect better with the middle ground people who might have shared goals with us. And we have to realize that society now thinks there is a say in dogs globally. It's not just national and regional decisions that are going to be accepted. So for the CKC, one of the things, address your mission, clarify that, clarify your values and value that you want out of your interactions with the rest of the dog world, and find others with common goals. Then you can move ahead faster, benefiting from the work of others. Share what you've got to share, use what they've got available to you. I think with collaboration, we get an enhanced sense of purpose, and we are more likely to achieve substantive outcomes more quickly. So as we say at IPFD, think globally and act locally. So find out what you can and then tailor it to what's unique in the Canadian situation. Specific ways you might do these things is to reach out to those who will embrace dialogue and these kinds of collective approaches. We should be all stronger together, so we have to identify barriers, but look for solutions that address not just situations and problems, but human attitudes, because they underlie all of these issues. And we are starting a roadmap with specific suggestions for individuals and stakeholder groups, and you might wish to look at that yourself for short-term and long-term planning. So I guess this is a call to action for the dog world, and hopefully we're all working for the good of dogs and people together. And it's been a pleasure to address you today, and I look forward to some discussion.
Thank you very much, Brenda. That is great. We very much appreciate your insight and bringing a global perspective to the issues that affect us here in Canada. I want to jump in with a question, and if anybody has questions for Brenda, use the Q&A tab on the website broadcast platform, and if we have time, we'll absolutely get to them. Brenda, you talked about the different breed health strategies. Is there a kennel club that actually has a really good program of supporting breeders to ensure that the breeders have a really good breeding program? And if so, which kennel clubs and what makes it so good?
So the three kennel clubs I'll mention in that are Sweden, Finland, and the UK. And probably Sweden and Finland come first on the list because they have mandatory for every breed club, or almost every breed club, to do a breed health strategy document for their breed. And the word mandatory sounds a little heavy-handed. These are fully democratic kennel clubs. So reps are elected by the members, and the members populate the health committee. So when these guidelines are brought out, it's not the top down, it's a grassroots effort. And in fact, in Finland, when they first started it, they were only asking breeds that they thought were high risk to do these documents. And very quickly, almost all the breed clubs said, we want to do them too. And so they are the Sweden and Finland, it's almost every single breed club. And the breed house strategies differ quite a bit across breeds, but they include everything on the history of the breed and the breed club and what's happening today, but a major portion on health. So identifying what conditions are of the greatest interest in the breed, what seem to be affecting the breed, that's informed by these statistics that I shared with you, the Agrias statistics, and health surveys that they do as well. Then they decide on which of those conditions there should be a health test. And then the health test could be, for example, hip dysplasia testing is required in many breeds, and puppies cannot be bred unless they come from sires and dams that have been tested and have good results, defined differently in different countries. So that can be a requirement at the kennel club level. And then the breed clubs may have requirements, recommendations, or conditions on their radar. But these are very participatory projects, and they've been going on for maybe 2 decades now. So it's well entrenched in the system. They are unfortunately mainly in Swedish or Finnish, but both of those groups work with us, and we have quite a number of translations. We also have a translated template. So any Canadian club that said, hey, maybe we should think about doing a breed-specific health strategy can look at those and say, okay, this is what they included. Should we include that, or is it different in Canada? And then in the UK, they're doing some great work on what they call breed conservation plans, done together between staff at the Kennel Club and the breeds of interest. And that's producing some very good work as well. And again, links, examples available on Dog WellNet.
So it sounds like for the breed health strategies, the breed clubs are an obvious and important partner. What other, and it's great that there's work already been done globally that might be applicable to Canada. What other partners would the CKC work with if breed-specific health strategies was something we really wanted to get into?
Well, of course, I don't think that even though you have insurance in Canada, I don't think any of the insurance companies have the database that the Swedish insurance company has, but they could provide some input on what is being seen. Other kennel clubs have helpful information on how to do health surveys within a country. So that's another place where things can be worked with. And then through our genetics work, so genetic testing, the harmonization of genetic testing in dogs, we partner with many of the research and commercial genetic test providers. And there's quite a bit of work going on there now that they are having larger and larger databases to perhaps be able to link into results. They wouldn't be identified by dog, of course, but at a breed level. I think there's more and more interest coming in that. And then we have other partners. Vet Compass in the UK is a veterinary practice database, and they are building more and more statistics on breeds. And then some of the international breed clubs have fantastic databases. So breed by breed, you just have to look and see what's there.
Yeah, that's great. And I believe we have a question from the audience.
Okay.
Introducing Tara, who by day is our head of HR, and today she's our moderator. Thank you, Tara.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Brenda. Thank you. We have a question from Margaret Zacher. She says, how does Finland, Sweden, and UK enforce these requirements for breeding that you have mentioned that the club has put into place?
So, as I said, in Sweden and Finland particularly, these recommendations come from the breed clubs up through the breed health committees. So the breed health committees have representatives from the breed clubs. They make a decision, and then, especially with requirements, that is probably confirmed at an annual general meeting. So it's very much democratic. Now, do the people in the breed clubs 100% disagree? Well, that is unlikely, but it's not, like I say, it's not a top-down approach where the kennel club is being heavy-handed. This is, sometimes there's some breeds with significant challenges, and the kennel club has to work closely with that breed club to try and get them on track. And as I said, in Finland, the program was really pushed forward by the breed club, saying we want to do this, we want to be continually evaluating what's going on in our breeds, and we want the help of the Kennel Club. And because of that, I mean, Finland and Sweden both have phenomenal online resources. Now, a little different than in North America, everything is public. So every dog of a breed that has a hip dysplasia test, those test results are available publicly. The health results are linked with the pedigree. And this allows those kennel clubs to calculate breed-specific coefficients of inbreeding, for example, on all registered puppies. It allows them to provide breeding values as guidelines for breeding decisions. They both have websites where you can go in if you have a bitch and you want to find a sire, you narrow it down to 2 or 3 sires. You can click on those sires, you see their health test information, and you can calculate, for example, a coefficient of inbreeding for those puppies based on those 3 different matings. And then they suggest that you choose a mating that has a COI lower than the breed average. So it's a very ongoing program with support on doing it from the kennel clubs and initiatives from the breed clubs. And that's how it works in Sweden and Finland. But as I say again, health tests aren't the whole picture. There's other things you have to look at in the breeding decisions. In the UK, it's not quite that coordinated, but they are working with the health councils and the breed clubs that want to work with them. And there are less requirements. But I will quickly say also that in Sweden and Finland, there are very strong welfare laws in the government. And the government is on to the breed clubs and kennel clubs saying, you must make sure that people are supporting the health of their breeds through adequate health testing and health programs. So the kennel club itself has to respond to the laws of the land and work that into these complex situations.
Great. I think we have another question. Tara, do you want to ask the question, which actually is a little bit related to what Brenda just talked about?
Absolutely. And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing anyone's name. That's not my intention, but we have a question here from member Lisa Ricotti. Mandatory strategies you mentioned for certain kennel clubs only apply to kennel club members, correct? Yet kennel club breeders are in the minority. So how do we apply these ideas to the majority of breeders who are supplying pets who do not follow the regulations regarding health testing? For example, in the Netherlands, no kennel club breeders for pugs due to laws, but backyard breeders still exist.
Right. So this is an issue that we address in our reframing document, and we work with various welfare groups and even the legislative groups to try and point this out to them all the time. We have published blogs and articles on the fact that kennel clubs, most national kennel clubs, in many countries are responsible for less than 20% of the puppies that are even apparently purebred puppies that are in the population. So expecting them to fix the whole problem is ridiculous. Now, in Sweden and the other Nordic countries, in fact, 60 to 80% of their dog populations are registered with the kennel clubs. So that's a big difference over there. And in the Netherlands, it's different because the government does have good records and lists of non-kennel club breeders, and they are evaluated through the welfare work. But let's face it, the kennel clubs and breed clubs are more visible. And it's, I have talked on this many times, that you will not solve the problem just by going at pedigree breeders. Of course, pedigree breeders should lead the way in terms of stewardship of their breeds, but they cannot be expected to do it all on their own. The problem with big commercial breeders, and the worst of the worst, the puppy farms. Of course, there are some legislative and welfare groups, especially in Europe, that are looking at the illegal online trade, looking at purchases online, and of course, unbelievable levels of attempting to educate people from that are buying puppies to figure out from whom they're buying them and make sure it's a good source. And that is very challenging because people want a puppy when they want a puppy. And in the pandemic, it's been hopeless. People have chased an undersupply. And so it's another thing that we talk about is that we have to try and work through the public to change their demand behavior, because that's probably the only thing that's going to help. But there's certainly that side of it that leads to legislation that most of the legislators do not even understand the complexities of the supply side of things. So it's a really complex issue. That was a great question. Maybe not a great answer, but that's just the way it is. It's challenging.
So Brenda, I think we have time for one more question. Go ahead, Tara.
Absolutely. We have a question from Lendra Barker, former CKC board member. We are facing legislated inspection regulations for breeding operations in my area. This is for sanitation, conditions, spacing, and so on. Do you have access to a list of inspection guidelines that we may refer to?
That is a really great question. And I've got to say right now, I know that we had information on various efforts looking at physical requirements of breeding establishments. I'm not sure how up to date that is. And I'm happy to go in and dig that out and add to it. There are some guidelines from a group in Purdue that is looking at larger kennel requirements, but I'm not sure the best way to post that. I assume, Tara, that you will be posting a copy of the video of my talk. And I can send you a link when I have it, or you can all make sure you're signed up to Dog WellNet and watch, and I'll write a blog on that within the next week and make sure the information is there. And you can share with me the Canadian guidelines or, Lendra, your local guidelines, and we can put them up to compare and contrast with some from elsewhere.
That's great. So Brenda, on behalf of the CKC, thank you very much for your talk. Thank you very much for your work with our own genetics and medical committee, because I know you're a friend of theirs as well. And so thank you very much for all of that. We will now take a 15-minute break. And when we return, Corrine, our chair, will start the formal annual general meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi there, I'm Corrine Walker, Director for Zone 8 Manitoba and the present chair of the Canadian Kennel Club. My friend Gossip and I would like to welcome all the members that took the time to join us today. I'm hoping that the meeting today will reflect the efforts taken on your behalf over the past year and highlight the future plans that we have in store. This past year has posed many challenges for all members across Canada, the board and staff of the CKC. It has taught us to embrace the things that are important to us. Once again, thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. The CKC is all of us from coast to coast. It's a common interest that we all share. Thank you and have a great day.
Good afternoon. I'm Frank Mccarthy, your Zone 1 Director representing Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and Labrador. My love and passion for golden retrievers and other purebred dogs has led me to support and aspire to the vision and mission of CKC for many years. Over the past 30 years, I have served and have held positions on several all-breed clubs, and presently I'm president of the Pictou County Kennel Club, the Maritime Golden Retriever Club, and the Atlantic Director for the Golden Retriever Club of Canada. As an owner of Q & Kennels, I'm proud to say that my dogs have achieved several CKC awards and titles, and others have become beautiful family pets. I am pleased to join the CKC board this year and support all the members from Zone 1 and throughout Canada.
Hi, I'm Denis and I'm your Zone 3 Director for Quebec. I'm involved in agility, IT. We've been busy trying to find solutions in agility, trying to get people to shows despite health and sanitary restrictions. It's been a challenging year, but I'm looking forward. I have hope in the future. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Richard Paquette, and I'm the Canadian Kennel Club Director for Zone 4 Ontario North, which stretches all the way from the GTA to the Manitoba border. I serve on the Strategic Planning, Communications, and the Brachiocephalic Breeds Advocacy Committees. I've been a director off and on for the last 4 decades, and I want to welcome you all to the annual general meeting of the Canadian Kennel Club. Enjoy.
Hello everyone. I'd like to extend a warm virtual welcome, bienvenue, to all members across the provinces and territories to the 2021 Canadian Kennel Club's annual general meeting. My name is Alistair Sutherland, Director for Zone 5, Ontario East. Zone 5 is made up of about 1,700 CKC members, and it's wonderful to see so many of you in attendance today. I'm actively involved in breeder relations and strategic planning committees, as well as several councils, while a member of the board. Thank you to each of you for joining us today, and thank you to our Executive Director, Jeff Cornett, and all staff, as well as the AGM Planning Committee, for making this AGM possible in challenging times. I hope everyone stays healthy until we can all meet again, and I do hope you enjoy the AGM.
Hi, I'm Peter Scott, CKC Director for Zone 6, Western Ontario. My wife Michelle and I live in Guelph, Ontario. I am a long-time, now retired professional handler, so my area of expertise would be the conformation world, and I'm learning the rest on the fly. I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance, and thank you for taking time out of your weekend to join us. I hope you enjoy the show.
Hi everyone, my name is Mark Orelski. I'm your Zone 7 Director for the Canadian Kennel Club. My wife Corinne and I live in North Toronto and have been members of the Canadian Kennel Club for close to 30 years. I wanted to welcome you and thank you for attending today's annual general meeting, and to thank you for your commitment to purebred dogs and the Canadian Kennel Club and everything involving canines. Our members in Zone 7 participate in a multitude of events connected to animals. They volunteer at all breed shows, agility trials, obedience trials, hunt trials, you name it, our Zone 7 members are there. And thank you very much for all of your participation and for supporting the Canadian Kennel Club. 2020 has been a rough year, and we're seeing 2021 as a new horizon and really looking forward to what's going to come in the next couple of years. So again, thank you so much for attending today's annual general meeting, and I look forward to meeting with you in person sometime in the near future. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Dave Gilmore, and welcome to the CKC's 2021 virtual AGM and board meetings. I am the Director for Zone 9 Saskatchewan. I serve as the Chair for the Draft Committee, the Board Liaison for the Event Officiating Committee, and I sit on the Legislation Committee. I've been involved with purebred dogs since 1987, when my wife and I bought our first boxer. We fell in love with the breed and haven't looked back. I am currently working on achieving my all-breed status as a judge, and I am in my 3rd term as a director.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Leanne Bateman, CKC Director for Zone 10, Alberta, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. Thank you all very much for taking the time to attend the board meeting and the AGM meeting this weekend. Your attention and interest are truly appreciated. I would hazard a guess that 1 year ago, not one of us would have thought we would still be in the grips of this worldwide health situation that has so dramatically impacted every facet of our lives. I would ask that you stay safe, stay healthy, try and stay positive, and again, thank you for attending this weekend, and I hope you will enjoy the meeting.
Hi everybody. My name is Tempest Deptut. I am the Zone 11 Director representing Vancouver Island, the Lower Mainland, and the Sunshine Coast. And I want to welcome all of my members from my zone to our 2021 Canadian Kennel Club Annual General Meeting. I'm a standard poodle breeder and I live here in the beautiful Cowichan Valley, and I want to welcome everybody from across the country that has joined us today. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Dr. Terrell Udenberg, and I am the Director for Zone 12, which is the rest of beautiful British Columbia and of beautiful Yukon. I am a veterinarian, and I am a breeder and actual exhibitor of standard poodles, and I am an all-breed dog judge. And as an all-breed dog judge, I have delivered seminars worldwide on the physics of balance, and which is an anatomical lecture, and in reproduction, and as well in brachiocephalic airway syndrome, which is the breathing difficulties of these short-nosed dogs that seems to be plaguing the world of dog showing and of international criticism. And I think we can help that along through the Canadian Kennel Club. Welcome to the annual general meeting.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call the 2021 Canadian Kennel Club Annual General Meeting to order. For those that do not know me, I am Corinne Walker. I represent Zone 8 Manitoba, and I am the present chair of the Board of Directors. Joining me at your virtual head table are your Board of Directors and the CKC Executive Director, Jeff Cornett. We're pleased to offer our French-speaking members simultaneous interpretation. To listen to the meeting en français, please use the icon that looks like 3 stacked lines in the menu bar of the live stream window and select CKC AGM live stream. The supporting materials for the agenda items are located under the Resources tab. They're also available on your CKC portal under Resources, AGM Documents, Annual Reports, and Audited Financial Statements. I'd like to welcome all the members attending today. To have you actively participate in this meeting is a reflection of your dedication to ensure that we, the CKC, remain responsive and effective in dealing with matters on your behalf. Our work involves many areas and deals with matters important to the dog fancy. From the recent CFIA import regulations to non-standard colors being bred and registered, to the development of breed health strategies and resources, these are just a few of the important issues that the board and volunteers on committees are working on. As members, we also have another responsibility, and that is to cast our vote in referendums that occur from time to time. In the 2020 referendum, there were several breeds that applied for recognition to start the process to become a fully recognized breed. Due to lack of participation on our part, we did not reach the required 25% approval vote to move them forward. In future, I strongly encourage you to participate in the referendums so that breeds such as these will have the same opportunities that many of ours presently have. Today's AGM will last approximately 2.5 hours. We will take a short break about halfway through the meeting. If you have questions related to items under discussion, please use the Q&A tab on the left-hand menu on your computer screen to submit them. Later in the meeting, we have scheduled 45 minutes to address as many of your questions as time permits. If we do not get to your question live during the meeting, we'll reach out to you later with an answer. Please keep your questions related to the topics being discussed today. And on an administrative note, this meeting is being recorded. Agenda item number 3 is in memoriam. I'd like to express our deepest condolences to the family and friends of the members of our community that we have lost since our last annual general meeting. May I have a moment of silence in their memory, please? Thank you. Agenda item number 4, minutes. Our next agenda item is the approval of the minutes of the 2020 Annual General Meeting. These minutes have been reviewed by the board and were previously posted for the membership on the website. As a result, no notice of errors or omissions was received. At this time, we're going to ask you, our members, to vote to approve these minutes. You'll be able to vote using the voting feature on the left-hand menu of your computer screen. The actual motion is, it has been moved by Mark Orelski and seconded by Frank Mccarthy that the minutes of the 2020 Annual General Meeting held virtually on September 12th will be adopted as circulated. Please take a moment now to vote for this motion. Thank you. The motion is carried. Agenda item number 5, correspondence. There was no correspondence received for this meeting, so we'll move ahead with our next agenda item. Number 6, presentation of the 2020 audited financial statements. I'd like to introduce our auditor, Marcus Sconsi, who is a partner at BDO, to present the 2020 audited financial statements. After his presentation, he will take a few minutes to address any audit-related questions from the membership submitted through the Q&A feature on the left-hand side of your computer screen. Marcus, I turn the mic over to you.
Thank you very much, Corrine. Thank you for the nice introduction. So the first item that I'd like to talk about with respect to the annual audited financial statements, which you see up on your screen, is the independent auditor's report, which is the 2-page report that we sign at the completion of our audit that indicates our audit was completed as planned and that we're providing, as we always do, a clean audit opinion, as you can see in those first 2 paragraphs of our report. What that means is we had another smooth and efficient audit process, and I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to the finance and management team at CKC for all of their assistance throughout the audit process. With that, I'll move on to the statement of financial position. So I will do my best throughout my presentation to highlight items and to not use accounting terminology, if at all possible, as I know sometimes the terms we use can be somewhat confusing. But as mentioned earlier, there will be a Q&A period, so if something is not clear, I'd be more than happy to clarify it at that time. So the first statement you see is the statement of financial position. This statement highlights the assets and the liabilities of CKC as at December 31st, 2020, which is the year-end date. And you can see there's also comparative amounts presented for December 31st, 2019. A few items that I'd like to cover. Firstly, the cash and short-term investments, which are very important, especially in these tumultuous times of the COVID-19 pandemic. And you can see CKC continues to have an extremely strong cash and liquid investment position, totaling just short of $3 million. It's those first 2 line items under the assets. That's fantastic to see. What that does is it provides the liquidity available to fund operations, to fund strategic endeavors, as well as to fund the unforeseen, which during this last 12 to 15 months has been absolutely imperative to have. Moving down into the liabilities section, the first couple of lines I'd like to talk about the accounts payable and accrued liabilities. You can see quite a significant drop there from $690,000 to $348,000. That's about a $340,000 decrease. There's a couple reasons for that. In the prior year, there was about $80,000 of payables related to the ERP system, which went live during the year, as well as there was a backlog in registrations due to the ERP system going live of about 120,000. So when registrations are received, the revenue is not recorded until the registration is actually processed. Until that point in time, it is considered an amount payable back to the member who submitted the registration, and that backlog caused an unusual increase in payables in the prior year. The next item is actually the third item that I wanted to talk to there, the deferred rent, 146,000. You can see there was nothing there in the prior year. This is a 2-month rent deferral offered by the landlord due to COVID-19, and this was fairly common. We saw a number of our clients receive similar rent deferrals due to the cash flow constraints that COVID caused. Finally, the last item I wanted to talk to is the deferred leasehold inducements, which is the last item before the subtotal, the 181,000 compared to 256 in the prior year. This is an accounting item that relates to the lease of the premises. The accounting rules require that all costs related to a premises lease be recorded on an average basis. There was a free rent period for the first few months of the lease, as well as there are escalation clauses in the monthly rent at certain stages of the lease. So this is a notional liability. It's not really owed to anybody, but this represents the difference between the cash paid to date and the rent that's been recorded on an average basis in the financial statements to date that will ultimately be expensed through the statement of operations. Which brings us to the statement of operations. So as the statement of financial position showed the assets and liabilities at a point in time, this statement shows the revenue and the expenses for the full year ended December 31st, 2020, again with comparatives for 2019. You can see a number of significant changes here, which I'll walk through in the revenue area. Overall revenues were down from 5.6 to 5.3 million, so approximately $300,000. Some big swings in individual line items. Firstly, you see registration revenue up from 2.5 to 3.5. It's just short of $1 million increase. There's two reasons for that. The first is that registration backlog that I talked about earlier that existed in the prior year was cleared in the current year. So that's caused an anomaly in terms of the registrations that would have otherwise been recorded in the prior year as revenue being recorded in the current year as revenue. As well, there was more demand for purebred dogs due to COVID-19. So a rare situation that we see among our clients is somebody finding a financial windfall due to COVID-19. So it's nice to see that uptick there as well. Unfortunately, the downside of COVID-19 can be seen in the line just below the shows and trials, which you see is down from 1.46 million to $347,000. And that's as a result of all of the COVID-19 restrictions, which made it impossible to run dog shows post mid-March of 2020. So there is a little bit of revenue for the shows that were run before the COVID lockdowns were implemented, but obviously quite a negative impact there to that revenue stream. And the next line item is the last one I wanted to specifically talk about, membership fees down from 922,000 to approximately 800,000. The reason for that decrease, which is about 13%, is for a couple of reasons. First of all, there was a number of members that did not renew as a result of the new ERP system, wanting to be comfortable that it was up and running and functioning properly before they renewed. And secondly, the lack of shows and trials caused for some membership renewals to not happen. As many members receive the most direct benefit from shows and trials, some members felt that in the absence of shows, they would not renew their memberships. So overall, you can see, as I mentioned earlier, about a $300,000 decrease in revenues. So down into the expenses, there's a few items I'll address there as well. The first being human resources, which is the salaries and benefits of CKC staff. You can see quite a significant decrease there from 3.4 to 2.8 million. That's a result of a couple of items, the main being the federal wage subsidy, which CKC was eligible for and applied for. That resulted in a $362,000 subsidy received over the course of the year, which has been recorded as a reduction of the related salaries expenses, and that is a common disclosure that we see. And secondly, there is some reduced headcount as well, which is the remaining reason why we see quite a significant decrease in that expense item. The next line, IT support services, you can see is quite an uptick from $377,000 to $622,000. That relates to the new ERP system and the consulting costs that were required as a result of the IT support needed to support the implementation of the new system. Finally, the next item is amortization expense, which you can see about midway down, going up from $92,000 to $193,000. That is a result of the new ERP system, which was a significant cumulative cost over the last number of years. And now that it's up and running, we're beginning to depreciate that. Amortization is accounting terminology for depreciation expense. So that is what that line item is. And then finally, the last two items I wanted to address in the expenses are both related. You can see board of directors and committees and councils expenses, significant decreases there In one case from 171 to 77,000, and in the other case from 87 to 17,000. And those are as a result of the COVID-19 lockdown and the requirement to hold meetings virtually, as well as to hold the 2020 AGM virtually. Obviously, the reduction in travels, meal, and other costs related to holding those meetings in person versus virtually is reflected in the decrease there. Overall, we see the excess of this, excuse me, we see the deficiency of revenue over expenses, which means expenses were higher than revenues, of 139,000 versus 230,000 in the prior year, which at first glance might raise eyebrows, but actually I see that as quite a positive result. I think given the turmoil of COVID-19, we've seen a lot worse among our client base at BDO. A number of organizations are struggling quite considerably through COVID-19, and the fact that your shortfall was only just short of 140,000 is actually a testament to the great job management has done over the past 12 months to weather the storm among the turmoil of COVID-19. I'm going to pause briefly to see if there's any questions to this point in my presentation.
Tara, do you have any questions so far from the membership?
We do have one question.
Okay. Go ahead.
So good afternoon, Marcus. Nice to have you with us. We have a question from member Margaret Zacher. Is the IT support services 622,000 in 2020 and 377,000 in 2019 all associated with the new software?
So off the top of my head, I can't answer that with certainty, but I would say that the majority of that is, yes, associated with the ERP system, but there is common IT support as well that would be a regular expense, so that there's always some expense in that line item every year, irrespective of the ERP system. I will continue on. There's a couple more items that I wanted to quickly talk to in the financial statements before moving to the next item of my presentation. The statement of net assets shows the historical accumulation of revenue over expenses for the Canadian Kennel Club since inception, the total being the 3.5 million that you see in the far right column. I wanted to draw attention to actually the leftmost column, which is the invested in capital assets, which you can see has an ending balance of $1.283 million. And that is the funds that CKC has invested in various capital assets, the majority of which relates to the ERP system. So you can see the significant investment that CKC has made in the IT system, and that is why we saw such a significant amortization or depreciation expense on the prior slide. The next statement is the statement of cash flows, which I won't go into in detail, but it's important to touch upon. This shows both the sources and uses of cash during the year. I think given especially COVID-19 and the constraints that it's caused on many organizations, it's important to have a line of sight on the cash position, which, as I mentioned earlier, is quite strong. So nothing of concern here that I wanted to point out. And then finally, the notes to the financial statements, which I won't go through one by one. The notes provide two things to readers of the statements. One is note number 1, summarizes the accounting policies, which ultimately determine how certain items are recorded in the financial statements, as there can be both estimates made as well as judgments informing certain balances in the financial statements. And finally, notes 2 to 11 provide additional details or information on some of the balances in the 4 statements that I just went through to elaborate on some of those items. 3 that I wanted to quickly touch upon, note 6, which is commitments. So those are lease commitments that CKC is committed legally to pay third parties for various leases in future years. Why I wanted to point that out is because those items are not recorded in your accounts payable, but they do remain commitments in future years as you use the related items that those relate to. The next is note 10, which summarizes the COVID-19 subsidies received during the year, which I spoke to earlier with respect to the wage subsidy. And finally, note 11 is some disclosure discussing both the past and the continuing impact of COVID-19 on CKC, which is important to understand as you review the financial statements, that the uncertainty that COVID-19 presents does create risk into the future. So that concludes my financial statement presentation. It sounds like there's no additional questions, but I'll just pause briefly in case there are, and then I'll continue on with my Election Commission report. Okay, so it sounds like there are no questions. So the last part of my presentation relates to my role as the Election Commissioner. There was an election and referendum held this year, as occurs every 3 years. And BDO is appointed as your external auditor, the Election Commissioner. The reason this is done is to ensure an independent and unbiased election and referendum process, and to ensure that the process runs smoothly and fairly. As I mentioned, there's two pieces to this process, the election piece and the referendum piece. The election piece relates to the election for board of directors for the Canadian Kennel Club for the 2021 to 2023 board term. The referendum includes two items, both proposed bylaw amendments as well as recognition of new breeds and rules of eligibility related to them. In terms of the election results, which is the first item you can see there, they were announced and certified on December the 8th. There were 4 acclaimed board members, and other zones had competition for the board member seats in those zones, which are included as well in the results that were posted. The referendum results consists of, as I mentioned, 2 items, proposed bylaw amendments as well as new breed and rules of eligibility. In total, there were 3,146 responses received for the proposed bylaw amendments, and there were 2,921 responses received for the new breeds and rules of eligibility votes that were required. The total number of eligible voters was 14,367. So as you can see, as Corrine mentioned earlier, there wasn't a high participation rate in this election, or in this referendum, I should say. In terms of what was passed and what was not passed, all bylaw amendments were passed. There were 21 of those in total. In terms of both the new breed and the rules of eligibility, which you can see are points 3 and 4 on this slide, none of those 4 items passed, and that was a result of the low voter turnout. There are 2 criteria required to pass those items. The first is that 2/3 of the vote must be in favor of the change, and I will note that in all 4 cases, the vote for by far exceeded 2/3. In fact, they ranged between 84 and 88% for in each case. However, the second criteria required to pass those items is that at least 25% of the membership must cast a ballot. And as you can see, in terms of the new breeds, only 20.33% of eligible voters cast a ballot, and the proposed name change, only 21.9% of eligible voters cast a ballot. So again, referencing back to Corinne's remarks in her opening comment, the low voter turnout caused none of those 4 items to pass, and as a result, none of those items passed. So I'll pause now, and if there are any questions with respect to my election and referendum commissioner's duties, I can answer those at this time.
There are no questions, Marcus, at this time.
Okay, great, thank you. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Marcus. We'll move on now to agenda item number 8, the chair's report. This past year has presented monumental challenges for all of our member clubs, exhibitors, and our staff. What started out as an unknown virus is now one that is well researched and part of our daily vernacular. We are all required in a very short period of time to become very familiar with virtual meeting platforms to be able to conduct our business. Our staff was required to move overnight to a work-at-home environment and all the issues that involves. We all became social distancing experts, learned where to purchase liters of hand sanitizer, and how to practice touch minimalization. Creative ways to host shows and trials were tested, revised, and then revised again to give some opportunity to compete in the events that we all love. Now we're in the early days of the beginning of return to a new normal. Vaccines are being distributed across the country, although in some areas, not quickly enough. When this is over and the virus is dealt with in the same manner as our annual flu shot, what does this mean for the future of our sport? For 18 months, we have isolated, maintained our bubbles, worn masks, and washed our hands. The new normal is still not known to any of us. What the post-COVID world will be is still yet to be determined. What we do know for sure is that our club has survived one of the most difficult challenges in its history. Not only were we dealing with a computer system crash that handicapped our ability to record events and registrations, we had to deal with the potential of a 25% loss of revenue due to the inability to hold shows and trials. We finally started to come through this period with a computer system that allows, through a personal portal, to access shows and trial results for our dogs, registration activity, and the potential for so much more. Along with that, we have succeeded under the circumstances in maintaining a good financial picture and have not suffered as gravely as many other not-for-profit organizations have during this time. The future is bright as we're striving to make our organization more nimble and proactive. With the hiring of Jeff Cornett as our executive director, we have taken a huge step into developing the CKC into being more a responsive and forward-thinking organization. We're striving to better communicate with our membership and all dog lovers in Canada. I can see in our future a club that will be the go-to source for everything canine. We will strive to grow our base membership, grow our online presence, and be a more everything canine resource center. CKC is not just shows and trials, not just registrations. We're that and so much more. We're going to reach out to the public and let them know that heritage breeds have held an essential role in the development of our country. The human-animal bond is as strong as it ever was, demonstrated by the huge surge of new owners during this COVID pandemic. The unconditional love given by a dog has helped many through these dark months of isolation. We're going to celebrate all those things that make our breeds different and special. From a Labrador serving as a guide dog, to that same breed leaping into a lake to retrieve waterfowl, to a Dachshund showing his true colors by going to ground in search of a varmint. Each of our breeds has a history that needs to be honored and shared with others. I would like to thank the volunteers that have dutifully served on our councils and committees. Through their selfless hours of volunteerism, we've been able to grow and expand our vision for the future. With the formation of our National Advocacy and Government Relations Committee, we will be able to respond more effectively to future concerns regarding anti-dog legislation and build policy statements that will be used to educate and inform. These members will later become CKC ambassadors in their respective provinces. By maintaining our advocacy profile on several levels, the CKC will be the first agency that provincial and municipal governments will reach out to when enacting new legislation. I'd personally like to thank the CKC staff for their dedication and hard work in this past year. This team lent their individual expertise and experience to help other staff members to shine in their new duties. The management team is constantly looking for ways to improve service and make the overall membership experience more seamless. The future is bright. Innovative ideas and new relationships will make the CKC a more progressive and responsive organization. I am thrilled to be a part of this journey, and I encourage all of you to consider how you can get more involved with your CKC. Thank you. On to agenda item number 9, annual reports of committees and councils. Next up, we have the presentation of the annual reports for our committees and councils. Please use the resources tab on this platform to access the 2021 CKC annual report, or you can check it out on the CKC homepage. It contains all the reports of the activities on our committees and councils for 2020. I'd like to thank all the members who volunteered their time and expertise in 2020. Your work with these committees and councils over the past year helped shape and guide this club's progress and positioned it to continue to support all of our members in their future endeavors. To those members who put their names forward to serve this year, thank you. The CKC is a member-based organization who is stronger because of the participation of our members. Thank you for your generous donation, for your time and expertise. For those members who have not yet had the opportunity to volunteer with a committee or council, I encourage you to seek out members in your area who are currently involved. Even though our committee and council members have already been appointed for the current term, there's always opportunities for you to get engaged and positively impact your club. We'll now reconvene the meeting and go on with our executive director's report. Our new executive director, Jeff Cornett, has been with CKC since January 2021. He hit the ground running and hasn't looked back since. His years of experience working with nonprofit organizations and leading dynamic teams has been an invaluable asset to the CKC and our staff, tackling many strategic challenges within his first few months. Jeff is going to speak to some of those challenges now, our progress on them, and give a sense of the club's current initiatives.
Thank you, Corinne. It is a pleasure to be here at my first CKC annual general meeting. I'd also like to take a minute to say how much I'm enjoying working with Corinne as our chair and all of the board of directors and all of the staff at the CKC. It's only been 5 months, and there's good parts of the organization that I'm still getting to know, yet I'm pleased to say that the CKC is starting to feel like home. I look forward to when the world opens up again and dog shows and trials can return to normal, as I'm very much looking forward to getting to the dog shows, partly because I need to improve my education on this side of the business, but I also want to use it as an opportunity to get out and meet a wide variety of members from across the country. So I'll do a quick overview of the agenda. I wasn't here last year, so I'll focus on this year, a very quick financial update for the first 5 months of this year. I'll give an operational update, and then just very quickly, some of the projects we need to start working on in the second half of this year. But before we get into all of that organizational detail, I am pleased to announce a very special guest who has a special announcement for us. And through this video message, I'd like to introduce Sue Coughlin, founder and owner of Canuck Dogs.
Hello, my name is Sue Coughlin. You probably know me better as Sue at Canuck Dogs. For the last 15 years, I've managed the Canuck Dogs website. And for the past few months, I've also been working on a temporary part-time basis for the CKC, helping with the event results backlog. Now, my buddy Laz and I are very excited to announce that Canuck Dogs and I will be joining the CKC family on a full-time basis. My title will be Manager Canuck Dogs. This will not only provide financial stability for myself and Canuck Dogs, it also means that I'm able to continue to do what I love, which is working with members, exhibitors, and clubs to promote our purebred dog fancy. You know, the past few years have been difficult, even before the onset of COVID-19. It was a struggle to maintain the financial viability of the website and the workload required to keep up the unique services that Canuck Dogs offers. I know this all sounds like a big change, but Canuck Dogs is not going to disappear. Instead, it's going to become even better. All the things that you know and like about Canuck Dogs will be maintained, including standings, results volunteers, unofficial events, ads, all that. As CKC's Canuck Dogs manager, I will continue to maintain the day-to-day operations of the website and also plan many new features I'm confident you are going to like. You will still find Canuck Dogs at www.canuckdogs.com. It is not moving. You will still be able to contact me via the contact page on the Canuck Dogs website, so no changes there. With Canuck Dogs becoming part of the CKC family, I'm excited for what lies ahead and all that we can now accomplish with the CKC's support. You have been so generous with your support over the years, and I want to reassure you that this is not the end. It is an exciting new step forward for all of us. Thank you, and I hope to meet you at a show or trial one day.
On behalf of the CKC Board of Directors and all of the CKC staff, we'd like to officially welcome Sue and Canuck Dogs into the CKC family. As Sue mentioned, she's been working part-time with us over the past few months, and as an employee, her qualifications are absolutely amazing. She is an IT project manager by profession. She has great experience managing a website, and she's an integral part of the dog community. The board and staff absolutely know that Canuck Dogs is the go-to resource for event results and information. It has a solid reputation as a trusted brand for competitors and all purebred dog enthusiasts. Sue's guidance and the CKC resources, Canuck Dogs will continue to be a valuable resource for our members. I am new to the dog fancy world, but I've heard many times, and I've seen it myself, how important Canuck Dogs is to the community. I've been told that the main message that you want to hear is that nothing is going to change. And that is true. Sue is still absolutely in charge. The difference is she's now able to access the resources of the CKC to make the improvements that she has been wanting to make. And so we are very excited for this opportunity to maintain and invest in this important platform that is such an integral part of many of our members' lives. So thank you very much, Sue. She started with us officially last Wednesday in her full-time role, and we'll come to you with more information. And as part of the June newsletter, there'll be more information from Sue and CKC. So I'll now jump into the financial results. So you'll see the financial results. You'll see the financial results here in front of you. I'll start with the revenue, which is the top box. The first column is the first 5 months of the year. And you can see that we have raised $2.7 million in top line revenue so far. If you go to the very other side, you'll see 2020, the same 5 months, was $1.9 million. That's an $800,000 increase in revenue year over year. You'll also see the budgeted numbers there, where we had budgeted to actually have fewer dollars than last year. And as you look at the different revenue lines, you'll see it's the registration line where we've seen the most gain. $1.9 million of registration funds, significantly higher than the same 5 months last year. But there's good news on the other fronts as well. The membership is $50,000 up over this time last year. The only line that is actually down is the shows and trials line. And that is the concern for the rest of the year. We have budgeted for the shows and trials to be significantly lower, and we'll see exactly what happens as the vaccine rollout happens. The bottom chart has that revenue line. It also has the expense line. So we're basically on budget with our expenses, slightly over, because as we've dealt with the backlog of registrations and the increased volume, there has been more postage, there has been more temporary staff time to work on that, there has been more credit card fees and the rest of it. But generally, we have a very strong expense, especially in relation to the growth in the revenue line. The deficit is the last one. Last year, we had a $400,000 deficit after the first 5 months in this organization. I understand it is relatively common to have deficits in the first few months, and then as shows and trials in a normal year pick up, the deficits turn around into surpluses. We had expected a much larger deficit. We actually did a reforecast a few months ago when we had the March year-to-date actuals and saw the improvement. And in fact, we now have a surplus after 5 months, which is amazing. So very strong financial results going into this year. I'll then give an operational update. The first one is the membership. So the first chart here, you'll see total memberships. Currently, we're 10% ahead of what our memberships were same period last year. Now, I do understand that the membership renewal last year wasn't necessarily our benchmark membership program, but it is good to see that we're ahead. The second chart is where you'll see we ended the year with just under 17,000 members, and we're currently sitting just under 16,000 members. So we have a little bit of way to go to hit our same membership numbers as last year. But I will say that every week we're seeing about 100 to 150 new or returning members sign on. So the staff team and I are quite confident that we'll hit last year's membership numbers this year. And the bottom chart is the number of new to CKC members, and we've had over 1,600 new members so far this year. So relatively good news on the membership front. The second area for operations, and this is, I think, is the main one, is the application volumes. So you'll see on the left side of the chart, the two columns represent January to May last year, and then the last two columns are January to May for this year, 2021. The blue columns are the number of incoming applications, and the green column is the number of applications we've completed. So looking at last year, you can see that we received about 26,000 of applications in the first 5 months, and we completed just under 24,000 of those. So unfortunately, the backlog grew in the first 5 months of what you would sort of consider to be normal registration volumes. It's the first 5 months of this year that really stand out. So the first one, the blue column, that is over 40,000 applications. That's a 51% increase in the applications, representing the demand for purebred dogs during the COVID pandemic. The even more amazing line, in my opinion, is the green one. So that is 51,000 plus applications that the staff team have been able to complete in the first 5 months of the year. And what that has led to is this chart, which is the backlog of applications. So we had almost 13,000 backlogged applications as we entered the year on January 1st. And as of last week, that volume is basically zero. We're waiting for a few payments from members. There's some missing information, but the backlog of applications is now complete. And I want to draw your attention to two main areas that I think are important to note. The first one is the staff team. They have done an amazing job to not only handle the increase in applications, but also the backlog of application. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of overtime hours, a lot of personal dedication has gone in to dealing with the tsunami of new applications plus the backlog. Especially like to call out Andrew and Sherry, who are the sort of two quarterbacks of this whole process, both on the IT and operations side. They truly have done an amazing job personally and managing their teams. The second thing I'll call out is the new CRM system. I can guarantee you that the old APPX system that crashed at the September in 2019 would have had a very hard time keeping up with the tsunami of new applications and would not have been able to also do the backlog of applications. It is the new modern CRM and the efficiencies it gives us and the faster turnaround times, the better access to information and data that has allowed the team to handle the volume of applications that they have done. The other note that's important with the modern CRM system is that it is cloud-based, which means that when the employees were kicked out the front door at the end of March due to COVID with their desktop computers under their arms, they were actually able to go home, find space on their living room or in the kitchen table or in the corner of their bedrooms, or me in my basement office, and actually plug into the new CRM system and not, I won't say not miss a beat, but be able to manage and access the CRM system, which the old 30-year APPX system certainly would not have been able to do. So great work on the application backlog. One area that has been a frustration for the team and I have been the customer service levels. This represents the last week of May. This is a little bit skewed because the last week of May included the Victoria Day Monday. So really we had 5 days of volume squished into 4 work days. But we answered 80% of the English phone calls, virtually the same number of French phone calls, did pretty well on emails, and of course, live chat, new functionality is working great. But these are some of our better numbers. We know that as a team, we have not been able to get to all of your phone calls. Two main reasons for that. One, with the backlog, obviously there are people that are concerned and upset about their applications and they're calling in to follow up on those applications. Quite often people will have mailed in an application as well as when they didn't get a response, send it in online. And so it is very inefficient dealing with large volumes of backlogs and all the phone calls that generates, quite understandably. The other piece with the phone calls that come in when you're in a backlog situation is that quite rightly members are angry, and angry calls take longer to process than happier calls. And so we had more phone calls than we could set up to manage, and we had longer phone calls than we had set up to manage. Now that the backlog is behind us, we believe that we know these results will get back up to proper customer service levels. The next chart talks to the performance results. The confirmation results, the system functionality was introduced in the fall, and the team was able to data enter all the confirmation results. But it wasn't until the very end of January, really we had 3 months or so to actually data enter all of the 2019, from the fall 2019 and all of 2020 performance results. So again, Sherry and Tracy and the team on the shows and trials side have done an amazing job over the last several months to not only help develop the system, test the system in the production side, watch the systems go live week over week as each event came on stream, and then scramble to actually data enter all the results, which have to be done in chronological order to make sure all the titles are properly generated. And so they had over 1,200 events that they had to data enter, 40,000 entries, and that work is now complete, and virtually all of those titles have followed. Amazing work on that team. So just a few other pieces I'll highlight. I'll talk to what we have. So the new breed recognition. Several years ago, in one of our referendums, we moved to recognize 12 new breeds. Agriculture Canada approves that, which they did last fall, which of course was in the midst of some of our operational challenges and backlog challenges. And it was several months ago that we're able to actually program the system to accept those new breeds and then convert about 3,000 dogs from their MCN registration status to be fully recognized. The judges directory is now full functionality online. We have the stud book is now available for staff, and that functionality has been added to the new system and married up with all the old data from the APPX system. Club and judge renewals that functionality is now working, and all those judge renewals have gone out, as well as the clubs. What else do we have? Oh, I've talked about the performance events and all the titles that have gone out. The top dog results, now that we have the information in the system, we can produce top dog results. So the 2019 top dog results went out several weeks ago, and just this past week, the 2020 results went out. And I also plug again the opportunity with Canuck Dogs. Canuck Dogs, Sue has done an amazing job with her volunteers and getting real-time results. If you can imagine marrying that with CKC's official results and the ability to make top dogs much more real-time, or at least from a leaderboard perspective as well. So just a sort of opportunity that Sue is actively investigating with Canuck Dogs. The club directory functionality is now online as well. And there's been a host of operational and customer journey improvements that we have made through the system over the last several months. So all that to say is that we are officially announcing the closing of the IT4U project. It's been more than 5 years in the making. It has been a lot of work by many volunteers. I'd like to thank all the volunteers that have been part of the ERP steering committee. And there's both past and present volunteers. Amazing work from the staff to manage this. I know that this project has not gone as smoothly as we would have liked. It was not helped by the fact that the old system crashed and we were not able to bring the old system up. So we're scrambling to launch the new system before it was ready. It was not helped by the COVID and having all the people having to move to home offices and the challenges that added to the mix. And it certainly didn't help for all the tsunami of new applications coming in while we're trying to deal with the new system and all the training pieces that went with it. But it has been a project that we're happy to bring to a close. What we now have is a stable, secure infrastructure for our CRM platform. We have remote access for staff, which has been, as I've mentioned several times, very beneficial. There is no doubt that there are faster turnaround times for online applications, and that combined with more types of applications are now available to you online means better customer service. You can now see online access to all of your dog information and online access to all of the title information and a host of other benefits that the organization will be able to take advantage of going forward. So thank you again to everybody on the ERP committee. Thank you for the staff. Thank you for this board and the previous board for the oversight of this, but mostly thank you for the members and your patience as we completed this project. We're very pleased to announce its closing. So what's next? And I won't go in a lot of detail for this. More information will come, and these are just a highlight of some of the projects that we now have the time and resource to get to now that the CRM project is closed. The first one I'll touch on is policy, advocacy, and communications. This is an area that we can do more in. It's an area that requires more resource. We have one staff member, Sarah, who is our policy, advocacy, and communications, government relations team. It has been, in my viewpoint, quite reactive. An issue pops and we try to deal with it, and then the next issue pops and we try to deal with it. It's a bit like the game whack-a-mole to your country fair. We need to increase our resources on this side, and we need to move from a reactive to a more proactive stance. And while we're talking about advocacy and policy, government relations, I will take this minute for an update on some of the challenges with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. This is a bit, for me, trial by fire with this issue. To begin with, we were very pleased that the CFIA reached out to us and wanted our opinion on changes to the criteria, and very pleased that they reached out to us. We're obviously very pleased that they were trying to make changes that would ensure healthy dogs are imported to Canada in a humane way. This is a direct result of the public outcry, including from our members from the Ukraine incident last summer, and this is the CFIA and the government's response to that. So the core, we are pleased that they are taking the Ukraine incident and mass importation of dogs seriously. There are a couple of different changes that they put in, but when it gets right down to it, the main concern that's been raised by our members, a bit of a surprise to us when these were announced, and now we're actively working with the CFIA, is the requirement for the Kennel of Origin certificate. In a nutshell, and I don't import dogs, but in a nutshell, what is the new requirement is that the export breeders now need to have a site inspection of the kennel 90 days before the export of the dog. They then need the paperwork to prove that they have the site inspection signed 7 days before export by an accredited veterinarian, which needs to be co-signed by the authority in charge of veterinarians for the US, that's the USDA. So this is a significant additional hurdle that exporting kennels need to go through. And if you're a small exporting kennel, you now have financial costs, you have logistical costs, and you just have additional bureaucracy to prove that you are a legitimate kennel exporting healthy dogs to Canadian purebred breeding programs. And what this has done is put up a wall around Canada, which makes it harder to import genetic stock for our breeding programs. We understand this is a core contradiction to the Animal Pedigree Act, in which we are incorporated under. It is counter to our mission, which is the health and preservation of purebred dogs. It was a surprise to us, and it doesn't help that the overall communications and the online systems and all the other criteria and complications with importing dogs already is very confusing. And this piece is the core nut that actually is a significant barrier. And so we are continuing our conversations with the CFIA. We had a conversation last week with them. We've looked into additional support, and we're expecting to get further, more escalated meetings with them this week, and we'll continue to fight this, and we'll continue to keep our members abreast of what they're doing. In the interim, I would like all of our members who have actual experience of not being able to import a dog because of this new criteria to make sure that they know CFIA, to let CFIA know the actual examples of how genetic breeding stock has been stopped from coming into Canada and the detriment that is to your breeding program. Please copy us or make us aware of that so we can further emphasize those real examples that illustrate the program, and we will continue to fight this fight with the CFIA and within the federal government. So moving on, and in the question period, we can certainly talk more about that and answer further questions. So as running out of time, but very quickly, we've closed out the IT for You project, but that's not the end of our striving for operational excellence. There is more that we can do to make the customer journey easier and simpler. There's more that we can do from a staff training and perspective, and there's more we can do for an efficiency on the back end of this as well. So our work on the systems has not stopped, and we've got lots of work and opportunity to improve that. Shows and trials, this is a big one for me because, as I've mentioned, I haven't been to the shows and trials as yet, and so I want to really get in and meet the members, but I also understand, as with the vaccination and the rollouts and the opening up, there'll probably be questions, and we, with working with the board, will continue to communicate as much as we can and support the clubs. The CKC staff, just a quick on that. We have been in crisis mode for probably a year and a half, if not longer. So we have some work to do internally to really support our staff and bring in good, proper staff management policies, not the least of which is what we're doing from a work from home versus work from office policies. We have been very effective working from home, but we also miss the collaboration in the office. And like many other organizations, we've got to walk the balance from a staff perspective, from a customer service perspective, and from an organization perspective. And we will absolutely be looking at that over the next couple of months. And probably most importantly, membership engagement. We know that there's been member frustrations because of the operational challenges we've had. Now that those have ended, we have to continue to prove our value, to continue to prove the services, do better, and communicate more proactively. So engaging our members will be a project that is ongoing in the fall. So that is the end of my presentation, and I look forward to your questions that you submit through the Q&A function on the platform homepage. And before I go, I'll just very quickly now thank the AGM committee who's been hard at work on this, Corinne, Frank, and Mark. And from a staff perspective, Tara, Jackie, and Annette have been invaluable in putting this AGM together. So thank you very much for all of your support in putting this meeting together. Thanks very much, and I'll leave it there.
Each year, a member of the CKC is appointed to the position of honorary chair. Last year, we were pleased to announce that Thora Brown would be our 2020 honorary chair. She's kindly agreed to virtually present the members of CKC who are celebrating 50 years of membership. Over to you, Thora.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's indeed an honor for me as the honorary chair to be able to get my last word on this. I want to welcome these people, 36 people, names you will see, who are joining our select club of members with 50 years continuous membership in CKC. Many of the names you'll see up here will be personal friends. Some of them may be acquaintances that you've run across, and some of them will be just names you may recognize, but you haven't yet had a chance to meet. I know many of them. I've shown with them, against them. I've worked with them on committees, in clubs, and I've partied with some of them. There's very few aspects of our lives that we can honestly say we have shared with the same select group for 50 years. Your blood family is one group, but your doggy family is another group that we have all clung together. 50 years membership, wow. That means they joined in 1971. 36 people in this list, 50 years each. That's 1,800 years, 2 millennia almost of canine experience. Think of that, what that means. The joys, the hardships they've all been through, all dog people. How many trips to the vet? How many nights sitting up whelping puppies? How many miles traveled to shows, to trials, to tests, promising puppies raised, hours of training, but most of all, the knowledge and the love of the purebred dog. These are just a few of the things that these 50 years have brought. And let's just touch on the other end of this arrangement, the CKC over these years. The offices for CKC have relocated 3 times, maybe 4 during this. Our systems, as just been outlined, have changed from paper by hand to a wonderful new online process. We've had some crises of survival, but we did, and we've had some boom times. Back then, there was no Group 7. There was no scent detection, no sprinter, not even agility. All these things have grown in our love and passion for participating. The realm of instinct tests also opened up new worlds. But through all these changes, this growth, CKC has had the support and involvement of its membership. And these 36 people represent that commitment, that passion, that level of care for the purebred dog. Somewhere, somehow, these 36 were bitten by the doggy bug that got us all. Whether it was a standard well-described bug, a little obedient bug, or a hunting, herding, racing bug, it was a doggy one. That bond of man and canine that has been written about so often is a powerful force. And for all of us, there is no vaccine. So I say to this group, congratulations. Whatever your field of involvement is, you have attained a level of recognition for all those years you have given. But from all of us, all your CKC dog family, thank you for all the support, love, care, mentoring, teaching you've shown to CKC, other dog fanciers, but most of all for that passion for the purebred dog. And now, even as the veterans we all are, we will continue because we've all been bitten by that bug. Thank you, Corinne.
Thank you, Thora. Congratulations to those members who have achieved this awesome milestone. Thora's term as the honorary chair ends as of today. I'd like to thank her on behalf of the board and membership for her dedication to the CKC, both in her role as honorary chair, as a past chair of the board, and our present chair of the ROE committee. Your years of volunteerism have allowed the CKC to flourish under your guidance, and we all truly appreciate all of your contributions. Looking forward, at the board meeting yesterday, the board appointed Dr. Tammy Dunbar, DVM, from Portage la Prairie, Manitoba, as the 2021 honorary chair. Congratulations, Dr. Dunbar, and welcome to our family. I now have pleasure in presenting the Chair's Awards. This is an inaugural year for these awards, and they will be presented annually at future AGMs. These awards recognize the outstanding commitment, dedication, and accomplishments of CKC members. Nominations for these awards were submitted by CKC members, and on behalf of our previous board chair, Joan Bennett, our honorary chair, Thora Brown, and myself, I'm honored to announce the 2021 recipients. Our first award recognizes an individual with significant achievements in heritage performance events, such as CKC hunting type and field trial events, herding, lure coursing, and many others. The award recipient achieved national and international success in their chosen event, trialing their dogs in CKC events in a fair and equitable manner, and encouraged others to get involved in events, providing mentorship and assistance to individuals who are new to performance competitions. Instrumental in the introduction of the herding program to the Canadian Kennel Club, I'm proud to present the 2021 CKC National Heritage Canine Performance Award to Janet Lynn Leach. For over 30 years, Lynn has dedicated herself to preserving the tradition of working stock dogs. She has gone above and beyond to further the sport of all breed herding, creating opportunities for breeders and owners to preserve their breed's herding instinct and enjoy competing in herding trials. Lynn has been trialing since the early 90s. She's assisted in developing the herding program for the CKC, the Australian, and the Swedish kennel clubs. She hosts trials, clinics, and learning experiences for many enthusiasts. She cheered on other competitors when they had great runs and offered encouragement and advice when they didn't. The impact that Lynn has made on all breed herding in Canada is truly immeasurable, and we're honored to present her with the 2021 CKC National Heritage Canine Performance Award. Congratulations, Lynn. Our next award, the 2021 CKC National Breeder of the Year Award, recognizes a breeder who has dedicated their life to improving the health and well-being of purebred dogs. Recognized internationally for their Canadian breeding program and the excellence of its progeny, they are an expert in their chosen breed. They have dedicated their lives to improving the health and well-being of this breed and have created a legacy with the success of their breeding program. Breeding as a family unit under the same kennel name for over 40 years, I'm proud to present the 2021 CKC National Breeder of the Year Award to Christine and John Hertz. Christine and John put Canada on the map for Pomeranians. They are recognized around the world as one of the leading Pomeranian kennels. Many of the well-known kennels through Asia, Europe, and North America can trace their pedigrees to the Crescendo dogs. Their dedication, commitment, and contributions to breed health, research, and their mentorship has strengthened the breed globally. Christine and John have made it their life's work to promote and nurture this incredible breed for all to enjoy, and we are honored to present the 2021 CKC National Breeder of the Year Award to these two incredible caretakers of the Pomeranian breed. Congratulations to both of you. Our third and final award, our 2021 CKC National Obedience Competitor of the Year Award, recognizes an individual for significant achievement in the area of CKC obedience and/or rally obedience. Achieving national and international success in CKC obedience and/or rally obedience, they trial their dogs in CKC events in a fair and equitable manner and encourage others to get involved in events, provide mentorship and assistance to individuals who are new to performance competitions. We received numerous nominations for this individual, many of you. This will not be the first time you've heard their name called out for an award. I'm proud to present the 2021 CKC National Obedience Competitor of the Year Award to Lee Kazuki. In a career spanning over 50 years, Lee has set records for the number of high-in-trial awards won and of perfect scores achieved. She has a willingness to help others that is hard to match. She instructs classes, mentors beginners to seasoned competitors, and is an encyclopedia of training tips. She strives for the best as a competitor and pushes her fellow competitors to strive for the best with their own dogs. She has an unflagging commitment to ensuring opportunities for all obedience enthusiasts to learn, compete, and succeed. Lee embodies the true spirit of competitive obedience, and we're honored to present her with the 2021 CKC National Obedience Competitor of the Year Award. Congratulations, Lee. Congratulations to all of our winners. Your dedication to different aspects of our sport raises us all to a higher level. Once again, thank you and congratulations. On to unfinished business. There is no unfinished business, so we will move on to our open forum question and answers. And you can use the Q&A function to forward your questions, and we will try to, through Tara, we will address them.
We have several comments from members congratulating the CKC on the new platform for the AGM, as well as congratulating Sue and the CKC for Canuck Dogs. So thank you for all those comments. Next, I'm going to be going through several questions that have come in. We have one from Patricia Cummings. What if you're not importing from US breeders, i.e. from Europe or Russia? How does this inspection requirement apply? Obviously, you cannot have an inspection approved by USDA.
Maybe I'll take a shot at that, and if it gets more detailed, I'll pass it over to Sarah. So I actually pulled up the form because I'd seen it before, trying to get familiar with it. So a licensed veterinarian has to sign, so regardless of whether it's US or outside, all countries outside of US, a licensed veterinarian has to sign the form that inspection has happened from a licensed veterinarian. And then what it says is an official veterinarian of the Central Veterinarian Service of the country of origin has to sign it. So basically, you need the licensed veterinarian and then an official from the Central Veterinarian Service of that country co-sign, my understanding, saying that the veterinarian who signed it is actually a real veterinarian. That's my understanding of it. And what it means is 90-day site inspection, veterinarian to sign the form, and then the sort of central overseer of the veterinarian school profession co-signs it. Obviously, it feels like it's very bureaucratic and complicated, which is our main arguments with the CFIA and its impact to our breeding stock.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next question is from Jean Delisle. This question can be addressed by Jeff. Each quarterly board meeting costs around $50,000 to $75,000 per year, his personal estimate, if we have an actual cost. Can the CKC board decide to have only one face-to-face meeting per year coinciding with the AGM and the rest of the meetings, 3, being virtual, generating a huge savings?
It's a good question, and I know something that the board and management will talk about. I think at this point, the main emphasis is that we have a brand new board that has never met face-to-face. So I think the need for collaboration and building relationships and all the good positive things that happen over coffee at a break or over a meal the night before or the night after, we're actually looking forward to that. I'm of the opinion that we have learned a lot through this pandemic on how to work remotely, virtually. I expect it will be a blend of an appropriate amount of face-to-face for collaboration and relationship building, augmented with virtual for convenience and cost savings and time savings as well. What that actual ratio is, I can't tell you, and I think it would probably depend on what the board or committees or staff for that matter are currently dealing with.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next question can also be addressed by yourself. It is a question from member Margaret Zacher. Will CKC be looking at downsizing or moving to a smaller rental venue in the future with all of these new improvements?
That is an active question that I don't have a firm answer for. I can tell you that the likelihood is yes, but I need time to work with the senior management team, Tara, the head of HR. We've already started we've already started to look at sort of the real estate market. And as you can imagine, the commercial real estate market is quite positive for us. Our rent is up in 20 months, March 2023. So we need a decision by the end of the year. And we'll make that decision appropriately with the board approval. My guess is absolutely we'll need less space. I'm also hoping that our timing is pretty good and the amount we pay per square foot is also reduced. There will be some offsetting costs, like potentially more travel time, potentially more hardware costs to make sure we're doing good virtual meetings with all our staff, but I'm quite sure there'll be cost savings in the future.
Thank you. This next question, is from member Lizanne Hamill. For the new membership stat, does this include members who did not renew in 2020 and came back in 2021? Or are these members that were never a member of the CKC in the past only?
I think I'd like Andrew to answer that and introduce Andrew McAllister, the head of our director of e-business and the mastermind behind our CRM system at the moment.
Hello, everyone. Those figures are based on new member applications. So that can be brand new members, or it can be members that did not renew in 2020 that renewed 2020. So it's a combo of both.
Thank you, Andrew. Our next question comes from member Marie Newell. With the CRM system, can CKC now function virtually, and can customer service people be hired across Canada and the main offices closed to save money?
So I think I'll take that one. It's technically, yes, absolutely. Whether having everybody not having access to an office, I think from a HR, from a people management perspective, some people love working remotely. Other people with young kids and small condos and from a personality perspective need the collaboration more than others. If we were only virtual, we would have a potential problem from a hiring perspective. And if we were only force everybody to be office-based, we would have probably the same but opposite challenge from a talent and people perspective. We are talking, and again, these are early conversations, so please don't hold me to it, that being a national organization, we should absolutely accommodate national staff. Our best example is Sue Coughlin, a full-time permanent employee as of Wednesday, is happily living in Vancouver. And we also have members, staff members in Quebec and out east. So that is what the one of the small silver linings of the global pandemic has forced us to be more virtual in our perspectives and experience and ways of working.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next question is from member Catherine Grant. Regarding customer service, for calls answered, it's currently at 83%. What is the performance target now that the backlog has been dealt with?
Sherry, do you want to take a stab at that one? I know this is a project for operational excellence, which we haven't quite got to, but go ahead.
Sure, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. At this point, yes, we've just recently finished the backlog, so we haven't actually determined an appropriate benchmark at this time. It's something we're working on moving forward, as Jeff mentioned, and something we'll be coaching the team to as well.
I might add from an operational perspective, anything over a 95% answer level probably means you have more staff and they're sitting around being paid waiting for the next call. Below 95% is starting to be poor customer service. So we'll look at the size of our call volumes, the size of the staff necessary to handle that. I would also love to look at the operational hours and see if we can expand that. So there's a lot that goes into operational excellence, and we'll be taking a holistic view of our customer service levels, but absolutely our goal is to get them higher than they have been.
Thank you, Jeff. This next question can be addressed by yourself as well. We have a question from member Linda Schofield. Not sure if this is already being addressed, but is there any intention of changing the criteria for a new breed to be accepted? It seems quite sad that after a lot of work by a lot of people, a new breed isn't recognized because 75% of our membership doesn't bother voting. No matter what their reasoning, it's unfair to those who've put in the work.
I'm sorry I don't have Diane, our new registrar, to answer that question, and any of the staff team who want to jump in. My understanding, but don't hold me to this, is that's part of the bylaw, and it would require a bylaw change, which is another referendum change. What I don't know is whether the bylaw, which has to be approved by Agricultural Canada, would be approved to reduce the volume by 25%, and whether it's within our opportunity to change the bylaw or not. But we can look into that, but I can't give you an official answer right now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. We'll make sure that Diane also receives a copy of your question, Linda. Our next question is from member Sylvia DeRoche. This is my first AGM meeting that I've been able to attend because of the use of an e-meeting format. I imagine there is greater participation by members when meetings are held virtually. We found this with our breed club. I would like to see this format continue for the AGM. Can you comment on the likelihood of this happening? Jeff?
Sure. In the perfect world, and I don't see why we can't do this, but it's a board conversation. Our next AGM, all things going well, will be held in St. John's, Newfoundland. And I believe that there should be an opportunity for the board to meet in person. Any member who wants to join us in person should be able to join the AGM, but being a national club, I believe we should always have a virtual element where you can join from the comfort of your living room, regardless of where you live in Canada. So that would be the perspective. We think learned a lot at the virtual meeting last year. We've learned more for the virtual meeting this year. I know there's already a couple of things we would probably change, but I personally believe that a virtual element would always be part of our AGMs going forward.
Great, thank you. Our next question is from member Meredith Walker. This potentially could be addressed also by Sarah. But Jeff, is there a way for the CKC to get purebred show breeding dogs off the list as commercial imports, especially when only importing one dog?
Sarah, do you want to try answering that?
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm answering, there's a couple I know here. To get purebred and show breeding dogs off the list. Well, we're working on it. It's part of the same issue that we're looking at right now with CFIA. It's certainly something I know that's been given members some angst over the years, having to be lumped in under commercial. So that's something that we can definitely look into further within the issue that we're facing at this time. So I understand the concern there for being lumped in with commercial imports. But yes, CFIA has their way of determining that, same as USDA. And I know it doesn't always make a lot of sense, especially when you think of commercial imports as being larger scale or on a mass level. But that's something that we can definitely work towards as part of the other issues that we're working on right now. Did you have any more to add on that, Jeff?
Not really. I think it's all in conversation.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I think there's a volume. The larger the volume of dogs coming in my opinion, there's a higher risk just to the volume of dogs coming in. And I got to believe statistically, if you've got a plane load of 100 dogs, the health of each individual dog is probably more at risk than if you're bringing 1 or 2 dogs in with you that you own. So that's, I think, our lead argument, but we are in the conversations with CFIA and we will put all the arguments onto the table and fight for the best resolution.
Thank you, Jeff. Another question from member Sylvia DeRoche. It is also regarding the importation of dogs into Canada. Do these restrictions apply to a single puppy being flown in from the US? And what about a single puppy that is being picked up and driven back into Canada?
So the changes are for commercial dogs, which are breeding, resale, and adoption. And it's for puppies under 8 months. And it doesn't matter at this moment whether it's 1 dog or 400 dogs. And it doesn't matter whether it's coming in by air or by car. So the answer, I think, is yes, it does apply for 1 dog being driven across the border if it's under 8 months and it's going to be bred or resold or up for adoption. Sarah, did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Okay.
Thank you. Sylvia DeRoche is on a roll here, and thank you very much for all of your questions. This one is regarding shows and trials. So Jeff or Sherry, as someone who has been a test secretary for appointing dog tests where our club does everything electronically now, will there be an opportunity in future to allow test secretaries to upload results and files electronically to the CKC to speed up results processing?
So I see Andrew nodding his head, and I bet Andrew, Sherry, and I would all give the same answer, but go ahead, Andrew.
The quick answer is yes. What Jeff was talking about, another exciting opportunity with Sue. So we have a project that's starting very, very soon to look at the whole process of event results, going through Canuck Dogs and ending up with official results. And it very much has a part where there's electronic submission of event results.
Sherry, anything you want to add from an operational perspective?
He actually answered it perfectly.
Yeah, and certainly from a customer service perspective, from an operational efficiency perspective, we deal with way too much paper. So trying to reduce paper, lots of great opportunities with this project. And with Sue and Canuck Dogs, we've got an early start on that.
Great, thank you. Our next question is from Alexandra Wood. Going forward, would the CKC consider offering virtual trial opportunities in Rally-O, like the AKC and CARO are offering?
Sherry, do you want to take that one? I'll just get myself in trouble.
Hi there again. We haven't actually looked at that yet, but that would be something that is in the hands of the councils. So we would ask them to create, just like they've created some of the rules and amended some of the rules for COVID, it would be the same idea.
Thank you. Here's a question from member Marie Newell for Jeff and potentially Sarah with regards to the CFIA. Is CKC going to hire an experienced company to lobby against the new CFIA regulations? And will CKC give members a voice as to what CKC offers CFIA as a resolution, as opposed to what has happened to date?
So I'll jump and answer that. Absolutely. And we've been in conversations with an organization that has good experience. We are also actively talking with them, so we haven't run out of runway on our own. And we are open to all the member input we can get. We believe the Kennel of Origin is the main sticking point as it affects our core mandate. And that's where we're shooting first. And we are open to member input, and we are open to external counsel, and we have lots of irons in the fire already.
Thank you, Jeff. We have a few questions coming in regarding CFIA. Here is another one from member Brenda Lawson. Can you please address the CFIA issue regarding non-breeder dog owners who exhibit in conformation, performance, or companion sports who wish to import a dog but are considered to be importing for commercial reasons and therefore have to meet the increasingly stringent importation requirements?
Sarah, I'll let you answer that one. You're a little closer to the details.
Okay, so if you're importing a dog for show and it's less than 8 months, right now there is a bit of an exemption where you don't necessarily need an import permit. You just have to provide proof of documentation that you are importing the dog for a show or a trial or some form of competition. So I'm not sure about the age of the dog, but if it's less than 8 months, You should not need an import permit, providing you provide proof of the competition that you'll be attending. Is there anything else in that question? And yes, it is because they have it lumped under commercial. I know. It currently says permanent stay on their website, but if you are importing a dog temporarily for competition purposes, then you should not need an import permit. You should just provide the documentation. That's what their current requirement is right now. And that's for dogs under 8 months.
Thank you, Sarah. Here's a comment about the CFIA regulations from member Hillary Culp. The CFI regulations don't just affect breeders. People are not breeders, but fanciers to show for fun or do performance are also considered commercial by the CFIA because their name will appear in trial results on Google. I feel this is important to note and gets forgotten. We have a question here from member Patricia Cummings. Another issue that has not been touched on is the requirement for quarantine of a dog once it has actually made it here. How can that even be done by smaller home breeders? Is CKC also addressing that requirement?
So Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong. The quarantine requirement is only for flights. Dogs being driven across do not require the same quarantine. From our conversations with CFIA, that is a direct outcome of what happened with the Ukraine flight, where they had these, 400 dogs, and they had no place to put them. So the goal for CFIA is to make sure that if a flight comes in and there's importation problems, that whoever's importing them have a place that the dogs can go to, and they're not stuck on a plane or at Pearson or any other airport. So that is the rationale as was explained to us about this. It is for flight only. And as my understanding, as long as you have a decent quarantine plan, that your import license will be approved. Sarah, is there any other detail?
That's correct. It's not mandatory quarantine. It's just a mandatory approval that you have a space that will house the correct number of dogs and the various criteria that they provide. You just need to have that in place, but it's not, you don't need to have mandatory quarantine. It's just like Jeff said too, it was spawned out of the Ukraine incident. And we're aware that not all of that criteria completely suits a home-based breeder. So that is on our list of topics that we are currently discussing. It's not the main one, but it's definitely on the list.
Great, thank you, Sarah. We're going to switch topics now. We have a question about clubs and bylaws. So potentially, Sherry, you might want to address this question. It's from member Doug Fisher. In the past, we've had issues with some breed clubs where a few certain people take over the club and don't abide by the bylaws of the clubs. Now, for the club to be recognized and put on CKC events, they need to send in the club bylaws. But when problems arise in a club, the CKC so far doesn't want to get involved. Will there be help?
This has been an ongoing concern we hear from a lot of our members and club members. As you probably know, there is something in policy stating that CKC does not get involved in the relationships between people within the clubs. There was a presentation motion idea put towards legislation, and they're looking at some different ways of the CKC recognized clubs maybe having an accreditation type program, which may help resolve some of those concerns. It doesn't really actually answer this question because we can't get involved, because that would really just serve the purpose of making sure that clubs' constitutions and bylaws were up to date. Right now, the clubs do send them in when they change, but I can tell you that we have a lot of very old constitutions on file. So we need to ensure with maybe this new policy that may come out. It's not been, it's just being fleshed out and talked about at this point, that something will improve in the future in that respect.
I can say it is a topic of the legislation committee, and I also understand, although I'm new, that this has been a recurring topic over many years with many different viewpoints, and not an easy one to solve. My early read on it is that if you have properly written bylaws, the escalation processes are actually spelled out in the bylaws, and the best we can do, which we've started to do, is make sure the bylaws are as fulsome as possible to handle these kind of eventualities. But I do understand it's a difficult problem that is in some clubs.
Thank you, Jeff. We're going to switch gears again, and we have a question from Margaret Zacher. Will customer service or any other job that is or can be made virtual, will that be outsourced outside of Canada?
So I'll take that one. I've got a fair amount of experience with operational call centers. I do not see the CKC's call center to being anywhere near a good fit for outsourcing outside of Canada. It's too specialized, it's too small, and the trend of outsourcing actually has pretty much come and gone. Some still absolutely outsource very large organizations, but we are not a fit for the outsourcing. So I think we will, unless something dramatically changes in my assessment of it, we will be an internal customer service as compared to outsourced. The question will be, how do you manage virtual versus office-based, and what are the work policies that surround that? And then how do we make sure that we are managing a team of the operations teams as best as possible for training and mentoring and compliance and coaching and all those other good operational aspects.
Thank you, Jeff. We have a comment from Patricia Cummings. And again, it's regarding dogs and importing. So a problem is when it's multiple dogs, but I think she meant to say not multiple dogs, but a single dog. This massively affects those that are trying to import and found rare breed lines here coming in from Europe. That's just a comment.
We absolutely know that. And it is, I think, personally, I can't believe, as I've mentioned, that the risk for 100 dogs coming in is viewed as the same risk as one dog coming in. But at the moment, that's what CFIA has put in place.
Thank you. Thank you. We have several comments coming in, and we're all very appreciative of your feedback. Not a question from Margaret Jones, but a compliment for a very interesting and well-run AGM. Congratulations. Well done, everyone. Congratulations to everyone. Thank you so much. We appreciate this feedback, and we're happy to be here presenting to you in this capacity. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, another comment from Eva Monson. Thank you for an informative and well done AGM. This is my first AGM, and I did really enjoy this format. She's an active longtime member with the CKC, 30 years, and a member of SKK, moved back to Sweden 2015, still breeding and active in shows and trials, although they haven't had any shows in 2020 or 2021. Thank you, Eva, for being a member for the past 30 years. We look forward to you making that 50-year membership list one day. Some more lovely comments. Thank you. We really do appreciate it, and looks like everybody is very happy with us addressing their questions. That's wonderful. Lendra Barker, former CKC board member, she just sent an email to CFIA. She encourages others to do so. Great jobs, a good AGM. Thank you. A comment from Barbara Heel. Thank you for the 50-year recognition. You are certainly most welcome and an active member. Thank you, Barbara. Karen Gibson, congratulations for an interesting and well-presented AGM. Excellent format. Thank you. We have, let's see, Aside from all those lovely, lovely comments, we have another question from Lizanne Hamill. In the recent past, some all breed clubs have been purchased by individuals, making them for-profit organization. Will CKC get involved in making sure this can be prevented in the future and all clubs remain not-for-profit organizations?
Corinne, do you want to talk to that? I know it's a tough subject, I think.
It is a tough subject. We are discussing it both at the board level and at the committee level. And it may take some time to flush out things, but it is definitely on our radar and we are definitely aware of it. So thank you. Tara, I think we have time for one more question and then we'll wrap this up, please.
Absolutely. Actually, if we can, it might be nice to answer these last two questions if we can.
Okay.
We have one from Marie Newell. Can CKC hold a virtual meeting with members just addressing the CFIA regulations and changes members would like to see made? But these new regulations will make it impossible for most of us to import, as very few breeders outside of Canada are going to opt for a USDA inspection or kennel inspection, just so they can sell a dog.
I think that's a good idea. This has been moving pretty quickly. And as I say, we've been having regular escalated meetings with CFIA, so things have been changing. You'll see an update on our website, but there's certainly more questions. But yes, we can absolutely look at how we get as much member input. As I say, if you send a note to CFIA, which we encourage you to do, especially if you can articulate the direct impact on your breeding program, please copy us for that. And you can always send your thoughts to info@ckc.ca or ed@ckc.ca for your input as well. And we'll look at trying to host a town hall or some sort of member feedback. We do have the Breeders' Relations Committee as well that we've been actively engaged with as a sounding board as well. So we very much look for your feedback and we'll look for ways to continue to get it.
Thank you. Do we have time for one more?
Go ahead.
Great. Last question from member Lisa Ricotti. For some very popular breeds, the majority of breeders listed on CKC's puppy list are those breeding non-standard colors. CKC Breeder Code of Practice used to state that the breeder members should at least attempt to breed to the standard. Will CKC consider removing non-standard color breeders from its puppy list?
Corinne, you can take a shot and I will answer that as well because it's a big question and a good question.
It's an excellent question. We have a committee that has specifically been working on this for about the last year and a half. And we do have some motions coming forward. I don't know if it's in this meeting or the next meeting coming up, but yes, it is definitely on our radar and we will be dealing with it accordingly. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, and I think I'd add from a puppy list perspective, when I interviewed for this role and was researching, I thought the puppy list was the greatest thing. I thought it was a great way to promote purebred dogs. I thought it was a great member benefit so we can help you or help the breeders, our member breeders sell purebred dogs. And I thought this is great as someone with lots of different marketing background, really love to come in and get my marketing hands on this and how do we communicate it, how do we promote it. The challenge is I'm not sure we have enough faith in the puppy list and the quality of the dogs across the puppy list and everybody who's on the puppy list. So we have to solve our internal challenges from a policy perspective, which is why that sort of policy advocacy and communications is a growth area for us. So we can actually have faith in our puppy list product and then decide how to promote it and what benefits it provides to our members and our mission. So that'd be my general comment about the puppy list.
That will conclude this portion.
Thank you, Tara. Going on to closing remarks and adjournment. I'd like to thank you all for attending today. Congratulations again to our 50-year members and to our new honorary chair. And last but not least, our national award winners. I encourage all of our members to reach out to their local clubs to volunteer in some capacity. Together, we are stronger and will grow the sport that we all love. Canadian Kennel Club members are some of the best breeders in the world. Many of our members have competed internationally and have had amazing success. Our strength is from working together, and now we need to celebrate our successes. Let's move forward towards this new normal together as a unified force to promote the breeds that we love and the value that they offer to all Canadians. Please take the time to complete our survey. Your feedback will give us direction of how to conduct future meetings. It can be found under the survey tab. Once again, thank you for attending. In a previous motion, it has been moved by Mark Orelski and seconded by Frank Mccarthy that the meeting be adjourned. Take care, stay safe, see you all soon. Thank you.